Welcome to AEC Stories. This is former SM3 Dempsey of the Uss Mount Hood podcast. Today we are going back in time. Actually, we call this part of the time machine because we're going forward in time of the storyline. Everybody you've listened to so far has been from the 87 to 91 era, except for Derek Grover, who was on in 1983. And the Mount Hood was basically born in 1971 and decommissioned in 99. And we are here with Joaquin Torres, who was on the Mount Hood, I guess 98 to 99. I'll be asking him in a second. But also, this is the end of a journey for a great ship. And that's what we're trying to document with the podcast and kind of tell you a story, because everyone had a story at different times. It's like a TV show. You're an episode, when you binge watch, you binge listen, you want to get all the details. So we're trying to give you really good context. So Joaquin was a deck striker to weapons who later became a radioman. So welcome aboard, Joaquin.
Hey, Len. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. How's everyone doing?
Hey,
I'm tune in later on, huh?
I needed somebody of the younger generation. Us old guys, you probably would have started a podcast when you're closer to 50 like me. But I guess, I'm like, hey, I got to reach these young guys. They're too busy doing life. I need to shake the tree a little bit.
Yeah,
guys are too busy living.
They're up to. Yeah, they're on a run. But you know what? We learned from all you guys, all the stories you guys brought to the hood and all the stories you guys brought to the Navy. So we learned from the old salty dogs, they say, huh?
Yeah, you're a salty dog now, technically. I mean, even, the guy that I had on, I called him my sea ancestor. So I'm your sea ancestor, basically, in the family tree of sailors. Yeah, I used to live in the same building, which is actually a gray steel ship. But it's funny, man. It's funny. Just I'm so glad you came aboard. We haven't had anybody that was on the Mount Hood when you were on. Was that your first duty station?
That was my first duty station. That was my first ship. I was fresh out of high school. And I remember hearing somebody on the podcast before talking about, when they got orders to the Mount Hood, they were like, the Mount Hood? All right, it sounds cool. An AE, I was ammunition, a cargo ship type of thing. I was like, wait a minute. I want to go into some sort of frigate, some sort of cruiser, a big old carrier.
Battleship or carrier, right?
I said, hey, what the heck am I going to do there, Got my
You're like, hey, you're going to...
And I was like,
was it in Washington?
It was in Washington. It was in Bremerton, Washington.
Oh, my God. See, it was stationed in Concord when we were on the Mount Hood. That's probably why there's a little bit of a disconnect,
There's a big gap. Yeah, we actually went to go visit Concord to the naval stations there when we did unloading and uploading for cargo when we would head out. So it was interesting stopping there because there was a lot of history from the Mount Hood in that particular area,
What a trip.
Yeah.
So How did you end up joining the Navy? How did that come something that you wanted to do when you get out of high school?
It was the fucking TV commercials, man. They got me. They hooked me. They told me to call, and I thought it was just going to be just information. Here's a packet of information, just something to look over, just in case I am considering traveling the world. They say, let the journey begin. And
oh man. You get that one.
Before you know it, there was a recruiter that he was pretty hot on it. He was calling me, he was leaving messages, and I had him come over for a visit. And before you know it, I'm over here taking stupid, quizzes and tests, and getting offered jobs and building this whole little fantasy in my head, right?
Yeah, you were becoming G.I. Joe the sailor. You're getting your action kit, your new job, and your new A school, and what you're gonna be, and it's like that.
Well, at first it was funny because I was not considering the military. I was just called in just to get some information, and I noticed things kind of changed in my household. I'm kind of like the black sheep of the family, so all of a sudden, mom's a little considerate, and all of a sudden, going out of her way, and she's like, wait a minute, what do you mean you're leaving? You know, things kind of changed. Everybody started treating me nicer. And I was like, okay, I'm liking this little ride. So I go along with it. You know, I meet up with the recruiter. You know, that was second meeting. And I go down to the station. And before you know it, you know, it's like, are you going to do this? I was like, well, maybe. I still got a few months, you know, and I'm just going to check it out, see what they got to offer me. And I got hooked.
What year was this? What year was this at?
This was 98. This was 98. This was like June, right after kind of high school. For me, I graduated, you know, and I was getting a little itchy. I wanted to kind of get out there, you know. This guy wants to party or be free or just get out and see the world and, you know, live all these things that everybody's kind of doing. You hear about, you know?
Yeah.
So, before you know it though, all of a sudden I'm in boot camp, you know, they're yelling at me, telling me I only got a minute to fucking call home and tell them I'm not going to hear from them for a while. And I was like, holy shit.
Did you have a cell phone back then? Did you have a cell phone?
Phones. No cell phones, no. I didn't
They were still expensive in 98. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, we had some pagers going on, the little pagers, you know, those. They'll send you a
Beeper City.
A beeper, yeah. I could afford it because it was only like $5 a month for me. So I was like, yeah, $5 a month, 17-year-old, I get that allowance every week, you know?
Wow. So 17 you were going in?
I was looking into it at 17 because 18 actually, yeah, April. So at 18 I was ready to you know, sign up and you know, start my, you know, just get fresh out of high school. I don't know if I wanted to go to school. I didn't have any plans to I didn't look into school or anything like that, you know. I just kind of wanted some money in a way, but I also wanted to, you know, see the world a little bit. And that's what I think kind of got me into the Navy part as far as the Marines or the Army or the Air Force. I just felt some sort of attraction to like a ship, the ocean life, you know, going across the country. And I like the Cracker Jacks. I like the fact that you're out there, you know, just visiting port to port. So I was like, let me look into it.
It's a romantic vision as opposed to some of the other forces. It's not, you know, when you see some of the old cartoons or old movies, like, join the Army. You're going to do KP and peel potatoes because you're a screwball. You're like, I could be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. But we had mess cooking. We had mess cooking, though.
That's what I tell people. They're like, you know what? You ever remember seeing the movies and the Army, the Marines are just peeling potatoes? You know, that's all they got and kind of do with the mess decks. Well, I kind of did something similar, but I just had to wash pots and pans from.
The scullery.
I had the scullery.
I had that same job. That was like, my wife wonders why I don't like to wash dishes anymore. And I'm like, honey, I'm sorry. I seem like a slob, but I burned out like at 19. You know, I was doing 350 dishes 3 times a day, you know, and they would mess with you too, but they would just like take peanut butter and everything and mash it all together so it wouldn't come off the tray. Right.
Yeah. You know what I hate? I hate forks. I hate washing forks, or if I ever had to like rinse my fucking dishes, you know, I don't mind rinsing a plate, rinsing some cups, but I just hate rinsing fucking knives and forks and spoons and fucking like, because I remember that shit wouldn't clean up. It wouldn't clean up and people would be kind of pissed, you know, like, the fuck, I still got fucking corn and fucking rice on my fork, man. Like, it's a machine, dude. It's a machine.
Yeah, now you get the machine, you get that magic spinning ball. People are like, why do they love this dishwasher with the magic ball that just strips everything off the plate so much? Why is washing a dish such a big deal? Do it 355 times more than you do on your regular day, and you'll soon understand, especially when you're sitting over that big deep sink with that hole that's supposed to be the disposal that just smells like sewage all day.
Oh my goodness.
And then you're out at sea and that thing's just sloshing back and forth and and it steam's blowing up in your face, but it's taking you back to
everything ends up smelling like fish, you know? Like, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's pretty gross, man. I remember. So where did you go to boot?
I went to boot in Chicago, Illinois. So
me too. What time of year?
Yeah, the boot camp there. That was I went in like September, October, November-ish. And I remember forming out of ranks. I think it was the second week and watching snowfall, you know, and it's like, Holy shit. I woke up and it's like, pumped me up because here's a kid from Los Angeles who never sees snow on TV only. So that was pretty cool. You know, it was pretty cool for a minute until I had to
Until it got cold, right?
Yeah, freaking cold.
I went to boot camp there too, man. And that was the coldest place I'd ever been in my life. And that was a very strange thing. Were you guys co-ed company or just all men company back then?
We were all men company, but yeah, we're all men company. Yeah, in our building though, in our building, there were a few other divisions, and there was a female division, kind of like right next to us. So that kept everybody wondering when they're gonna bump into a female. You know, little did you know, you won't recognize them because they also have haircuts short as yours. You know, and they're walking around with the same sort of these little outfits and caps, and it's like, well, who's who? You know.
That's so funny. You know, I was in the old man's Navy where it was just all alpha male. Just, you know, some people would consider it sexist. You know, it was just totally hardcore, you know, no gay people, no nothing. You know, fraternization didn't exist because we didn't have women on ships except tenders. Yeah. And then halfway through my career, we get women on board and they were great. And one of them is Michelle Howard, who's an admiral in the Navy. He's one of the highest ranked people in the Navy and a woman. She was the chief engineer on our ship. So she was part of that Captain Phillips movie where they, you know, rescued the captain from the pirates. She coordinated that with the SEALs. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you didn't know that.
Hey, fucking A, no. It's a listen right there. See, I remember watching the movie a few times because it's a naval, you know, movie. You're up there watching all these fucking pirates go crazy. You know, we went a few rounds with, you know, our encounters or our stories too, but interesting.
I want to definitely get to that part next, but it's a trip for you to hear that from me that came from my ship.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Now when I play with my family, I'm gonna kind of pause and do a little, you know, history lesson there for everybody.
I think you hear her talking in the movie or something, or it's in the credits. You can look it up. You can Google it. But like today, I met up with some shipmates. We have our Bay Area hoodlum meetings, and we plan on coming to visit you guys. We got one of my former SM2s down there in the Anaheim area. And I know you live kind of close, and there's another gal, Paula, out there, and there's a guy, Rich. There's several people, 5 or 6 different shipmates or more that live down in that area, some in San Diego. Like, hey, let's all meet in Anaheim, you know? The Mount Hood.
You know what? It's funny. You posted that thing on Facebook, you know. Where'd you end up after the Mount Hood, you know? And it's funny how you're just kind of just piecing little cities here and there, and you're like, whoa, there's so many people surrounded in the same area that you didn't realize it, you know?
Oh, no, I went, I probably didn't start looking at my shipmates for about 20 years. And then one day I get a 911 call, basically like, hey, Len, hurry up. Come to Vallejo. They're taking the ship out of the mothball fleet. They get it sitting here at Mare Island, and they're going to drag it away and scrap it and turn it into razor blades. We're like, huh? So I rolled down there, and I ran into about 12 guys or so or more that I hadn't seen in 20 years.
Wow.
And we're all older, a little fatter, you know, just, you know, everyone has seemed to survive. And you were like, these are the kind of people I've been missing. This is my shipmates. These people understand me.
Your brothers, man. Your brothers, where the hell they had been, right?
You know, I mean, when you were in, you didn't realize how close that bond was away until you went away. You know, you didn't, you know, till you became a civilian. And the civilian world didn't adjust to you. You were trying to adjust to it. You were already used to a culture of living on a ship.
Exactly. You know? Exactly. Everybody has a different mentality. I mean, we've been a civilian. You know, we were civilians before we went to the military, but a lot of us went into the military right out of high school, and our minds are kind of prepared to be molded, prepared to like take this information and say, hey, what do you want us to do? We're fucking willing and ready, you know?
That's right.
And here we are trusting these other, you know, shipmates around you, behind you, next to you. You eat out with them. You stand watch with them. You you go on port with them. Little do you know, you're entrusting each other's lives this whole time. You know, you're putting so much into it. Yeah.
Very compartmentalized, but it's all built under a really interesting management formation and a way to make everything work. It's like a redundancy. You know, the left hand takes care of the right hand, and the right foot, you know, moves the left foot, and, you know, all that stuff. But how was boot camp? I mean, how was boot camp for you coming out of LA, going up to Chicago and Great Lakes?
Well, I grew up in the hood of Los Angeles, so it was kind of tough. And of course, all the men in my life were kind of tough too. So, when you get into boot camp, it's everybody's yelling at you, everybody's kind of directing you, everybody's kind of like in your face, you know. And I also had a background from from a Baptist kind of church, you know. And it's very like, you know, it's very strict, and it could be very like, you know, build character and stick to your guns and, you know, finish what you start. And so when you're in the military, it's some of that came into use. You know, whatever I learned growing up and whatever I learned from church and from other, you know, people around my life, it was actually not too hard. The difficult part was just being away from family. Of course, you're so far. Here you are, you know, thinking you're never going to see the world. You know, I grew up in the projects. I grew up in a project environment where it was just, you know, gangs and shootings and people, you know, dying left and right, where you're not even thinking about, you know, what's over in across the equator, what's in Australia, what's in, you know, across the oceans. You know, you're not even thinking about the Navy. You're just like,
no, you're just trying to survive in that one,
trying to survive.
One, 2 or 3 blocks that you live in, and it's crabs in a bucket. So, you know, you try to climb out and someone pulls you back in, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
that's how it works.
Once you get out, you're just like, okay, you know, this is what everybody's been talking about, but there's a structure already there that when you can tell boot camp who can adjust and who can't. You know, you can start seeing the people who are not willing to take orders. And it's not about taking orders. It's about, you know, you don't realize till now. Back then, it was just like they're molding you to kind of get your bad habits out of the way. You know, it's just like we got shit to do. We got a plan to kind of get according to, and we got to put your minds. You know, everybody comes from different backgrounds. Boot camp wasn't as hard. It was hard staying awake. That's the fucking hard part, you know.
There was challenges. I wouldn't say it's physically anywhere near the Marines' physical fitness. And what I read, the Coast Guard's actually harder. I didn't know that. And they're more selective because they're smaller. So it's interesting. But you know, some places they're doing mad PT 8-mile runs a day, and we're like, okay, we did the 1.5 miles. And it wasn't every day.
We're huffing,
right?
We're huffing. We're only like, you know, jogging to chow. We're jogging to the next, you know, class, you know, and it's funny. I remember, you know, guys in my class, you know, running and, you know, being so tired that you're just vomiting to the side, and, you know, you got to keep on fucking trucking along, you know, you can't stop. And it's like, okay, if these guys could fucking keep going, I better keep my ass going, man, because these guys are a little heavier than me. You know, these guys seem like they're having a hard time, but they're fucking pushing, so I better not, you know, fucking...
No excuses.
Not let down. No excuses, man. Yeah.
It's so funny, though. I mean, okay, so you were in boot camp in 98. What was boot camp like then? Were the company commanders, were they cussing at you and stuff like that, or no?
Yeah, interesting. We had we had 3 commanders. I had 3 commanders. I had one who was a chief. He was a total just fucking prick. I mean, he was just like, he made your life hell, you know?
So he was doing his job.
He was doing his job, you know? We had another guy who was kind of like, he would play the nice guy, but he also be, you know, he'll pull his part, but he'll be the nice guy, you know?
Good cop, bad cop.
Yeah. Then we had a female officer who she was there to fucking prove a point. You know, if I got through it, you fucking pussies got to get through it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's funny though, at the end, after Hell, you know, after not Hell Week, but after that one little week of cranking away, everybody kind of turned around. Personalities turned around.
Yeah.
The guy who was being a prick was the coolest fucking chief ever, you know?
Right.
the guy who was being a mediator, you know, he ended up being like the, you know, the fucking gung ho. All of a sudden, he's got to follow the book, you know. The officer, she was fucking being cool as fuck, you know. She'll let us slide here and there. You could tell she's had a little mama's heart to her, you know. So she was cool the whole time.
That's really interesting. We didn't have any females. We had really aggressive alcoholic stepdad type boot camp instructors. He'd like pull a guy aside and say, "This face should be on the cover for an abortion poster," and stuff like that. I mean, he was just raw, dude. Get up, motherfuckers. I mean, just like you see in those old Marine Full Metal Jacket type boot camp movies, you know?
Yeah.
That was the Navy then. I wouldn't say we did more or less push-ups than you. I would say that the intensity was like, shut the hell up, my way or the highway, hardcore, no middle, no, I don't care about your feelings. We don't do feelings here.
Exactly. No fucking, there's no babies here, no girls here. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it was very interesting. You know, I remember arriving and some guys were trying to act tough and this and that, you know, on the bus. And then I saw their faces change.
Oh man. It's a whole different, it's a wake up call, and you could tell it starts happening once you fly in from the airport. You go into that little USO office,
in O'Hare.
Then they come get you in line, and then everything starts changing. You get in the bus, and you start seeing other people's faces. And yeah, you're right. You know, as soon as we got there, like fucking almost midnight, so we got out, it was dark. All of a sudden, people are fucking, and you know, there's sergeants yelling at you or whatever, and it's like, okay, just fucking follow what everybody else is doing.
That's a common theme though, because every podcast I figured out the Navy's angle, bro. You're gonna get there at midnight. You're gonna go through the sleep deprivation, and they're gonna break you down. They're gonna wake you up early. They're gonna move you around. They're going to shut down that part of your brain that's like, well, I want to shut up and stencil those pantaloons, you know?
I don't remember taking a nap or being able to sleep till like fucking like day 4, day 3. I was like, when are we going to fucking get our bunks or our racks? No, we got to wait for another bus to come in because we got to complete the company. You know, there's only 60 of you here. The fuck? So what do you mean wait around here? You know, it's like, when are we going to sleep? Jeez.
Right. It was pretty nuts. So you went through there. Did you go out and, when you graduated, did you stay friends with anybody from boot camp, or did most people fade away in the background?
You know, interestingly enough, I didn't, you know, back then, like the whole social, the whole media thing wasn't as big either.
Right.
It was creeping up, you know, so once everybody got to their ships, I went in. Yeah, exactly. MySpace, exactly. You start finding people on MySpace. That started kind of everybody connecting, you know?
Or Friendster. MySpace and Friendster was popular. Just not even popular yet. I mean, not till the earlier 2000s, but it was just showing up out there a little bit.
Yeah. And interesting, I didn't bump into any of my friends from boot camp until I got to my second ship, which was the Camden. And one of the survivors from the Cole, one of my buddies went to the USS Cole he got orders over there. So, when we responded to the ship, some of those sailors came on board for clothing, for food, for communications, to make comms to their loved ones. Here walks in this guy from boot camp, you know, Carl Wingate.
Wow.
Walks in and it's like, what the fuck? We see each other, you know, he starts telling me his story, that you know, his experience. And I'm like, wow, man, the only person after boot camp that I finally bumped into again, and this is how it happened, you know.
Let's skip back around to that though, because I want to hear that story about the Cole. I mean, that's a big story. That's a big piece of this podcast.
Yeah. Some of our shipmates from the Mount Hood who did the decommissioning, late crew also got stationed on the Camden that got to experience some of that in their life as well.
What a trip. So the Mount Hood, you showed up and they were already telling you from boot camp. You went to seaman school right after boot camp?
Yeah, I went to seaman school. Well, I got in. I took my ASVAB. I went ahead and and I got an OS A school. But then during my time before boot camp, I went ahead and tried to fool and get out of the Navy, try to cancel my contract. And they're like, "What do you mean cancel your contract? It's not gonna happen." They're like, "What seems to be the problem?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I mean, I just don't want to.
I like to party.
Yeah, I kind of used to be home now. You know, things changed a bit, right?" And they're like, "No. Well, you know what? If it's about being home, I could get you home. You want to be home for the holidays? You know what? There's this program I could get you in called the Deck Seaman Program." Yeah,
that was payback for trying to pull out, huh?
Right? That's what I fucking figured, man. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to have to drop your school, but this is a different situation. You know, you could kind of look for different rates, different jobs you want to get into. Boot camp's about, so many 11, 12 weeks. After that, you have your deck seaman school, which is just 3 or 4 weeks or so. And you'll be home before fucking you know it, the holidays or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that sounds kind of cool. Fuck it. Let's do it." So I went in as a deck seaman, and as soon as I got to my the Mount Hood, they're like, "All right, deck department, there we go."
Oh gosh, that's a trip.
But you the Mount Hood got back from a 7-month or 6-month cruise deployment in '97, right before Christmas. So I waited for them to pull in. So I was in the barracks for about a few days. The Mount Hood pulled in right before Christmas. So there I go, standing on the pier, get ready for the fucking shot line. Get ready to help more in. And it's funny because as soon as they pulled in, here I thought I was going to kind of go in and start, the Navy thing.
Yeah.
No, they're like, "Oh, okay, hang on. They're going to send you to your rack, the department." But in the meantime, I saw like almost half the fucking ship walk out. fucking sea bags, fucking bags galore. I was like, "Wait a minute, where's everybody going?" And little did I know they came back from a deployment and what it meant, right? What it meant to be out on a 6-month deployment. Once you got into port, if you're able to get off the ship, you're bouncing, right? You're off as soon as the ACOM.
You're running off on leave. You're going home to see your family. You're going.
Yeah. So here comes all these sailors coming down, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe somebody will come fucking, show a sign. "Hey, Torres, I'm here for you, buddy. Come on over." No, all of a sudden, everybody kind of clears up the port. People are walking up the ACOM ladder. I'm kind of standing by with my sea bag, and I'm like, okay, maybe here's a chance I could kind of walk up.
There's a lot of traffic. I guess I'll have to wait a little longer to join this Navy that's coming down.
And I'm remembering, permission to come aboard. Don't fucking forget. Permission to come aboard. Salute the flag. Permission to come aboard. Right? I had practice in deck seaman's fucking class. No, I go up there. They're like, "Hey, get out the way. Come on, get out the way." So because they're like, fixing the ACOM ladder, they're swinging shit off the ship. And so there goes my salute that I was all prepping for, right?
Yeah, they're just like, "Get on here." Yeah.
Yeah. So for a while, I was, while everybody was on leave during Christmas and shit like that, I was on the ship kind of just waiting for everybody to get back. Then half the ship got back and the other half left.
Wow.
So I was like, so when am I starting this fucking thing, So it was just after New Year's when, like after a week after New Year's is when they had a full quarters, everybody was back. And, in the meantime, I was just kind of hanging around, not really mustering up or anything. Just
you didn't have to do anything. You're just chilling on the ship. They weren't.
Yeah. For like 2 weeks, I was just,
not mess cooking, not being forced to swab any decks or what?
Nothing.
Really?
Nothing. I was just standing by. The guy checked me in. He said, "All right, just stand by. Everybody's on leave. You're in deck department, so they're gonna do sweepers every now and then. If you're here, it's cool. If not, some people are staying off the ship." So they didn't even put me on a duty section,
Wow. So you had liberty for 2 weeks or so?
Yeah. Little did I know what liberty meant. I stood on the ship. I was like, "Well, man, I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna fucking stay here until in case they need me, right? What do they call my name? What do they call my name on the 1MC? I'm not here, right?"
Right.
I didn't realize how unimportant I was at that moment.
You're like, "I'm here. I know they need me. Damn it. I'm ready."
Yeah.
What a trip, man. I can imagine that. I mean, I showed up and the ship was in at the pier getting worked on, kind of like dry dock.
Yeah.
But we were living on a barge in San Francisco. And it was like half the crew was there, half the crew wasn't there. I guess they had just towed it from Oakland, I found out today. They get back from a world cruise. And so they're sprucing it up, painting it, chipping it, doing all that stuff. And I'm living in this barge and I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? And I meet some wildcat Indian dude, American Indian guy, OS2 Shirley. His name always cracked me up because I think of the movie Airplane. Shirley, you must be joking. I'm not joking. Stop calling me Shirley. It's that stupid joke from that old movie Airplane, man. So I'm like, what do I do? So it took a while, but it took a while to get adjusted just like you. I was wondering, but I just kept taking the liberty. So you didn't, huh?
No, I didn't know where to go. I mean, I was 18 and, I was just 2 months ago, I was at home or, a few weeks ago, I was at home and all of a sudden I got to just be here in Bremerton where it rains. Yeah, it was raining too. So I was like, what am I going to do out on this ship? I'm from LA. I fucking stay indoors in the rain.
Right. What we're going to do is sit in the berthing and watch some crappy TV with no channels. I mean, I don't know if they'd gotten good TV by then. Did you guys have satellite TV or the 3 channels we had?
No, they had some satellite TV at the berthing, but they only had me there for a few days. So once the ship got there, they're like, hey, your ship got here still. It's in fucking pier so-and-so. You need to check out. I was like, oh, okay. Here I go to a rack. So I go and they gave me a bunk in the deck department, and it was fucking cold. I just remember the lights were always dark, it was always off. The red lights were on.
Someone was always taking a nap.
Someone was always sleeping, and here it was in a top rack. I didn't have any fucking sheets. All I had was my sea bag and whatever. So at night it was fucking cold, man. Freezing, dude.
Oh, wow.
For 2 or 3 days, I was just like, sleeping with sweaters and with those little sheets they give you, those little government, issued, gray sheets, right?
Yeah.
And I remember it's funny because I still laugh about it today with one of my shipmates from the Camden. I'm going to call him out, Sean Owen. He was in the deck department, man. So he went on leave. And I remember I was like, fuck, man, it's fucking cold. I was looking for a blanket. I noticed somebody was gone for a while. And there was this blanket that was rolled up in this fucking like little corner area, and I was like, well, I'm fucking cold. I used it that night, Used it that night, fucking slept okay. Waited for my box to show up with my own blanket, So I used that blanket for 2 days. I will put it back and I'll put it back and I'll fold it and I'll put it back right there in that bunk. And second night, same thing, right? And so I joked about it with Shaw Owen, and I said, man, Owen, thanks for leaving your blanket behind, because if it wasn't for you, I'd be fucking freezing my ass off the fucking 5th night I was there at the Mount Hood. He's like, oh, wow. Well, just so you know, I didn't wash it for 6 months, buddy.
Oh, man. So you were on the ship just sitting around 4 weeks, like almost a month?
Just hanging out, yeah, just waiting for everybody to come back from leave. All of a sudden, everybody gets back. I muster up with deck department. Everybody's, taking rows, this and that. And somebody from weapons division shows up. And they start saying, hey, we need some guys, because I guess some guys left or whatever. And so they're shorthanded and this and that. And they're like, hey, anybody want to go to weapons? And everybody was like, no, fuck no, this and that. And I was like, what the heck? What do you mean WEPs? Doesn't anyone go to WEPs, And all of a sudden they're like, you know what? We got 3 fucking boot camps that came in. Take those, And I think they hauled over. It was me, some other guy named Martin Romero.
Yeah.
And they took us to WEPs division. So I said, all right, whatever. I go to WEPs division, check in there. I remember some guys, man. Gunner's mates, Bunty, Bournay, Stark, Nelson, Newman was there. And it was just a little bunch of different, I guess that's when I noticed it was like, okay, here's a different department, different guys, There were a smaller group, but I guess they were in charge of the weapons. So I thought, oh, fucking A, I don't mind, being in the weapons department. And so they're like, all right, buddy, welcome aboard and this and that, fucking got to go in and check out the armory, got to check out all the fucking good stuff in the armory. There's this one chick, some female on board, and her name was Alva, and she was one of the females that we had on WEP's department. And she was a badass, man. She was a fucking gung-ho, doesn't fucking take shit from nobody, you know what I mean? And she fucking definitely one of those fucking rum drinkers, fucking hearts to the bone. Windhurst. Yeah, Windhurst was her name. So she was in charge of the fucking army, so she gave me a little rundown. So I was like, all right, I'm liking this welcoming introduction to this whole weapons department, And all of a sudden they take us down to the hold departments. All right, we're going down to the holds. This is where we keep all the fucking pallets of missiles, bombs, and artillery and shit that we fucking transfer to ships. All right, let's see what's down here. Nothing but fucking compartments.
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't know we had to fill all those suckers up with fucking, ammunition, man. Dang. I was like, what the heck am I going to be doing down here, dude? Fuck. Little did I know I was going to be humping away,
Yeah, it's kind of like that old joke, There's a joke about people go down to hell and they go in one room and people are getting, attacked with knives and pokey things and stabbed. And then they go in the next room and people are getting set on fire. And he's like, oh, I don't want to be in either one of these rooms. Well, here's your third choice. And he goes into the third room and the people are like up to their chest and shit. And they're drinking coffee and they're eating a donut. He's like, wow, this is cool. Whatever. Shit. I'll get used to it. I'll just drink coffee and eat donuts. Hell yeah. So he goes in there. He's like, great. I'm about to grab a coffee and they go, coffee breaks over. Turn over now. So you're supposed to stay into it with your feet sticking out the top. That's the same thing with tech, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, oh man, I got guns, weapons. This is cool. Oh crap. I'm in the hole, deep in the ship, loading thousands and thousands of pounds of munitions.
Yeah, right. They gave me training on how to fucking attach and detach a clip to a net, a cargo net, how to unhook J doors, right? Lifting these fucking J doors, Then of course people coming down and with these sending all the pallets down and the fork trucks down here fucking just playing Tetris down there in the holds, stacking shit accordingly. And here we go, lifting these fucking heavy pieces of metal with 2 pointers on each end. And we got to fucking, align one hole on the fucking top to the fucking deck. And if it doesn't go in, you got to fucking, adjust it so it's nice and snug and, secure for sea. So it was a lot of work, man.
So what ports did you get to hit? What ports did you get to hit on the Mount Hood?
Oh, that was a cool thing, man. I think, while, the ship was decommissioning, I think they got word that it was going to decommission. So they were trying to get at least one last good run in her, So they did a few drills and I guess the captain was able to pull a short little mini cruise, what they called it, a 3-month mini cruise. We got to go along with the battle group that was going to be out there. So we got a chance to, when I was with them, we went to Guam. We went to Hawaii. We went quite a bit.
You're always in that munitions base over there. I used to go there by Pearl Harbor. Yeah,
by Pearl Harbor. Yeah, at first it was like, wow, Pearl Harbor was such a thing. Second time it was like, oh man, we're going back. Third, fourth.
Yeah, after a while, you're just like...
Yeah, by the third time, I was like, man, can we go somewhere else?
You're not there on vacation with vacation civilian money. You might as well have been going to Fresno.
Yeah.
No hate, don't impress nobody. I'm just making an example.
Exactly, but probably the only reason why I didn't like it because I was still 18, so I really couldn't party in Hawaii, and I really couldn't drink and enjoy, I guess, what everybody else was going out and about and hanging out and just releasing some stress, and so I had to hang out at Waikiki Beach and do little tourist stuff, right?
Hanging out at Fort DeRussy over there, yeah. The little beach in Waikiki where they had like the military kind of based little beach.
Yeah. So I went to South Korea. I think we hit up South Korea, Japan.
Was that your first party port, like South Korea or Japan?
I think it started in South Korea or Japan. But I remember going to Japan. We went to Tokyo, Roppongi. We went to nice, cool ports down there, man. I remember partying up and just visiting up with just being there with the gunners mates, man. We just worked so much that when we were back at it, it was like we're running on fucking, some booze and workout supplements, man.
Yeah,
because we're humping away. So when we got Liberty, it was like, let's go, so we're out there, enjoying the night. Coming back, and it's like, all right, we got to go back and fucking crank up, So back then they had these fucking bottles of Rip Fuel, which were like fucking these.
I remember those. That was meth in a bottle, basically. Yeah,
man, Rip Fuel and creatine, man. We fucking use that to get us going, man. Get us through the holes, the cargo, the unreps, man, it was crazy, but got to.
I wish I would have had Rip Fuel back then. That would have made watch a lot easier, but I never would have slept ever.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That stuff was later proven to have the same elements of crystal meth. Just so you know.
No. It got involved with. It got crossed with like that hydroxycut and all that shit, right?
Yeah, it's the ephedrine or something that was in it. That's the main cutter.
Man,
but that stuff. If you drink too many of those, they could make your heart explode. Basically.
Oh yeah, man. Oh, we were fucking. There were times where we're like, just tired as hell.
Yeah.
What do we do? Just pop some Rip Fuel, and we'll go.
Nobody knows the consequences. Like, why not?
Yeah.
I used to do mortgage loans on Rip Fuel, and I'd be in the back having a cigarette with one of my colleagues, and we're talking. We're like, yeah, man, those 7 or 8% mortgages are really good, man. Yeah, 7%. Yeah, it's really good rate. Like, why are we talking like Beavis and Butthead, like on, fast forward speed here?
I remember we were in Korea or somewhere, where the heck it was, man. And we're bar hopping because we're just looking for this particular beer called Height, Height. And, we're going and we'll open the doors and they'll be like, we'll see a fucking big ass group and they'll be like, oh no, welcome or whatever. And then after one of my shipmates will be like, hey, you got Height. You guys got fucking Height, and they'll be like, no, forget it, let's go to the next fucking bar, and once we go to the next bar that has it, we'll stop there, have a drink, that turned up into like 2 or 3 drinks, and then we'll go to the next one, but it was like, are we bar hopping fucking and still not getting drunk? What the heck?
Right. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, I had a faster pace than you, but it's cool that you stayed an alcohol virgin for a while. I mean, you would go out. I mean, we were a little sneakier. We figured out how to bribe a guy that made ID cards and, sorry, Navy. Kind of being about half the ship. Found a guy, and for $50, you were 21.
Oh, man.
But I had a really strict chief, and he found out one of my signalman bosses had an ID, said he was 21, and he got busted and I didn't. I was younger, I think. I forget. We're still great friends now, but it was hilarious. And I would be out at the clubs and I remember being on the beach in San Diego and the cop pulls me over like, you're not 21. I go, yes, I am. I showed him my ID card. I thought it was hilarious. I had such a baby face. But, the difference is like you grew up in the wild barrio. I grew up in Europe, man. I was an army brat. So I spent most of my life in Italy before I joined the Navy. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, interesting.
That's why I speak Spanish to you. Yeah. I spent, from age 5 to 19. So, I mean, we started hitting the clubs around 13, having our first beer and then going to discos and stuff, 14, 15. And then on up, it's like, let's see what else we can do, you know? So by the time I got to the Navy, the novelty was old school to me.
You already had your fucking pre-quals already set up, huh?
Oh yeah, I should have had a badge instead of a ESWAS or whatever. I should have had a bottle badge. A bottle with two cross flags over it, right?
Anchors tattooed back when you were 15 already, huh?
Could have been. I had no idea I'd join the Navy.
Yeah.
You know, I got in some trouble. I had to leave Europe. And I went to join the Air Force, and they asked me if I had experimented with marijuana more than once. I go, of course. And they go, oh, that's too much. I'm like, I go, bye, Boy Scouts. I left. and I walk by the Marine recruiter's office, and there's a really big chubby kid, and he plays the epitome of the chubby kid that gets picked on in all the movies. And the guy's dressing him down. Listen here, son. And I'm like, he's not even in boot camp yet. This guy thinks he's in charge of him. What the hell? You know? I walk in the Navy recruiter's office, and he's got two beautiful women talking to him like they're all flirting up on him, and on the side of his desk, he's like, hey, what's up, buddy? I'm like, hey, sailor. And he basically told me, and this is in 1987, he's like, the Navy pays you to be a drunken seafaring whore, basically, and not so many words. That's what he said. So, you know, you can neither confirm or deny that, but that's basically what he said.
Yeah.
And that sounded a lot more enticing. And, you know, he must have profiled me or something. I don't know.
Dempsey, we have a record of you already here.
We have pictures of you on Facebook.
We know how to lure you in.
We have pictures of you on Facebook. Now, that didn't exist back then. See, now, imagine a recruiter could look up your Facebook and they see you doing all kinds of stupid stuff. And you're like, yeah, you're qualified to be a so-and-so tech. Oh, look at all these things. He's on a keg stand and this and that. I don't think your clearance is going to come back. Why don't you try to go join the other department down the street? I can imagine that happens today. They're stricter. They're really strict. Was it strict when you joined or no?
They were strict. I mean, I remember going into maps and everything and even getting to boot camp. And there was people that I guess they've asked if they, you know, had any participation with drugs or anything, and they'd be stepping out of line to talk to the people that are handling everything on boot camp, and I won't see them again. It's like, oh, well, I wonder if that was what they used to just get out, or if, you know, it's like, hey, well, you gotta wait to get clean again, or we gotta check you to see how clean you are. But it was strict, you know, if you partake or something, they seemed like it was like a no.
You should have used the Bill Clinton, I did not inhale, but I don't know about that trick. I don't know about that trick. You know, I mean, What was I going to say? I have a confession. I'd like to join the Air Force. When I'm not in church, I'm at home knitting, and I don't hope that's not too over the top for you, sir. You know, I've made a lot of sweaters in my day. On a Saturday night, I could really get a good sweater going. Let me tell you.
They're like, no. So you can multitask. You're in.
Yeah, that was the thing. And, you know, I'm glad that, you know, that didn't work out. I wanted to go into broadcasting. I worked at a TV station on the Army base in high school for a couple of years. So I thought I'd join the Air Force, and because they had cool duty stations, and I wanted to go work in broadcasting again. But the Navy somehow pushed me into signalman, and it wasn't too bad of a job after all. It wasn't too bad. I get a signing bonus and stuff, so that's why I took it.
Yeah, you know
I forget what other rates they offered me. Huh?
You know, that's one rate I always, when I went in, and I always looked at these guys. You know, well, when you're 18, it's funny because, like you said earlier, you know, you have all this crew who you don't really meet in the beginning. And eventually doing operations and during certain scenarios and certain drills, you see everybody kind of putting their part that makes the whole ship or the whole thing come together. And you see everybody these new faces crossing your path and this and that and this and that. And you're like, oh shit, okay, they're headed somewhere. And you're like, where the fuck do they come from? Oh, their berthing's over there on the other side, you know, and their berthing's on this side. And you don't really get to see each other until times when you hit port, when you're on the Liberty boat, when you're on the mess decks, you know, when you're fucking, you know, just walking in your berthing, hanging out, and you start meeting all these other people in your life. it's crazy how everybody has a part. Everybody has a part that brings everything together. And eventually you start being like, oh, well, what do they do? What the fuck do they do? They're always going down to the holds, or they're always wearing these red caps. You know, they're always wearing these masks on these drills. They're always going up to the bridge. Signalmen, I was like, what the fuck are they like? How do they know what to fucking put up? You know, this flag and that flag and this flag and this. And I'll be wondering like, oh, what does that mean? It's like, you guys are the only ones that will put something up, and I'll be like, what the fuck is that flag? You know, let me look at my fucking book training manual again.
Oh, we had code books. We had all kinds of different stuff. We had a vault. You had to have a clearance. You had to, you know, we would send stuff that was like confidential up to secret, depending.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just, we would use infrared flashing light to do Morse code, or we would use directional flashing light, or we would use semaphore, or we would use those flags. But our main job was lookout.
I thought it was cool, the Morse code, and I was like, fuck, they went in school and they could fucking communicate. We don't even know what the fuck they're saying. We will pull up to ships, you know, and you guys will be flashing your shit. I was like, what?
Yep.
What's going on? But I thought
I never knew it.
I always thought it was cool, you know, the whole fucking signaling, you know, like, cause, you know, if you don't have communications, you know, if you don't have no radio communications, and my second ship, when I got to my second ship as a deck seaman, I struck out and I went radio man, and it was all you know high frequency receivers and transmitters, and it's all comms, you know. So we were plugged in, it was good to go. Yeah, exactly. Signalmen though, you know, once we got alongside another ship, and there's certain shit, you know, you guys would even bullshit with each other.
Yep.
What are you laughing? No, we're just bullshitting. Oh, so you guys are not talking about where the fuck's going on underway? No, we're not. Oh, cool. I mean, I don't know if that went on with you guys, but
a little bit of that sometimes. We'd like, hey, have you seen Johnson from A school? No, I haven't seen him around. We've been hanging out in San Diego. Oh, cool, man. You know, yeah. I bought a new Mustang. Oh, right on, bro. I mean, that stuff would happen. But we would know some of each other.
Yeah. Huh? Oh, by the way, how's your course going? Oh, yeah, I got a check in. Yeah, we're good. Okay, and never mind. Anyway, back to what we were fucking talking about, right?
Well, the thing now, when you see all these shipwrecks, it's, you know, signalmen were very vigilant, and we had better binoculars. We had 20x binoculars compared to handheld binoculars, which I forget the range, but a lot less. 65-pound binoculars versus 5-pound binoculars.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those things it always felt like you could read a license plate a mile away. That's the kind of vision they had. Eagle eyes. They call them big eyes. But, and then we had different IR, starlight scopes and infrared, you know, night vision. So we were always looking for ships, and we had to recognize them. We had to recognize them by their stack on the horizon, like up to 18 miles away, and say, okay, that's a Russian spy ship, or that's a Chinese battleship, or that's whatever. And we used to be able to, you know, cause the OSs would have one thing, and the EWs, electronic warfare specialists, they would be getting signatures of their radars.
Yes.
But if they weren't rotating and radiating, then you weren't getting nothing. And if they were running dark, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of things why you needed that human element.
Exactly.
But they get rid of the radar.
And like back in the day, right? The signalman, where, like you said, you know, you're identifying a certain ship from, you know, the horizon, which is so many miles away, 18, 20 miles away, depending how high you are. And all you're identifying, all you're looking for is a silhouette, the shape of a ship. So you can see, okay, you know what? That's someone we should be you know, concerned about, or that's someone we should. That's cool, you know. But I was always like, fuck, you gotta be able to fucking know on your on your head kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, you had to, because we would, you know, we would open up the Jane's fighting ships and just memorize. And I found it. I was really into it. I really liked. Yeah, learning about what the different ships did, and it was really, you know.
Yeah, back then the OSs, because I remember my second ship, the OSs would confirm with the signalman, what ship was that, and they'll mark it on their fucking radar. Oh, this guy's just a flagship, or this other ship is just a cargo.
Their MoBoard,
you know, whatever, this and that. But they'll be kind of putting their IDs on their graph according to what you guys are kind of just confirming over here.
You were able to go into CIC because you had a top secret clearance eventually to be in radio, right?
Eventually, yes. They gave me one on my second ship, yes.
So how long did it take for that to come around to get when you were striking radiomen?
Oh man, you know what? It's funny because I always dug the whole weapons thing. So when I went to my second ship, they're like, no. It says here you're a deck seaman. You're going to the deck department, buddy. I'm like, no, I'm in weapons. I'm a gunner's mate. You know, like nope. And I remember another guy, Stryker. His name was Joshua Stryker. Gung ho, man. That guy needed a fucking gun. That guy needed a fucking trigger. You know that kind of guy. So he was mad. He was mad that he didn't get to go to the gunner. So he had to, strike. He had to strike out of deck department. It took me about a year and a half, about a year and a half. To strike out. I had to wait till I was like an E3 or like my second year in there, And I remember
you were on your second ship by your second year, right?
Yeah. My second year, I was already on my second ship. So, one of the good things, I guess, of the Mount Hood decommissioning is that I got an opportunity to serve on another ship in my only term, my 4 years, So I got to meet two groups of, shipmates two families, in that span. So it was amazing, good experiences, and so that was cool.
What was the process of the decommissioning? What happened? Did they just start unloading stuff? I mean, what were they doing?
It was crazy. It was interesting that, they had everybody in the barracks. So that was a good thing. Everybody had a barracks for a while. But they had these little crews that they would go into the apartments and we started stripping, the bulkheads and all the fucking asbestos shit and the holds and the compartments. We're basically taking all the bolts, all the screws, anything that's attached, anything that's, lockers, walls. So we got to work with asbestos. I don't know if fucking anybody in that whole era that had to remove all that shit is going to get infected later on, knock on wood. But that's a concern.
Well, something worth checking into, because there was a guy that was on our ship that died of mesothelioma. So it's possible,
Yeah. Oh, I think I heard about that. I think I heard about, I think the wife or somebody posted on that, didn't she? Or was that it?
Yeah, I think it might have been in the podcast that we talked about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we were there. We were in the, on one of the piers, but we helped the ship just get stripped away. Basically, we were dating her, taking all her makeup away, taking all her accessories away.
Did you guys have to break down everything? I mean, anything that gave it that could be used for another ship, basically, right?
Well, most of the part, because we're getting it ready for it to get sent off somewhere else, so they can do their part. So we're kind of doing maybe the prep work, the surface
chop
stuff.
shop.
Yeah, the chop shop stuff. Yeah, exactly. Basically, like, hey, you're moving out, get everything you need and take it out at the same time. You painted those walls gray. Yeah, I need you to strip them down. And also, whatever you have behind that, fucking take that shit off. What's that? Asbestos? Yeah, take that shit off too. I need to fucking bear to the fucking bone as much as possible, because once we get it to the yard, they're just going to start cutting her through and putting her in pieces and, donating whatever the fuck they can, keep out of her, I guess.
Wow. So were they stripping off like just everything? So the last day that you saw the ship, was that when you were getting your orders? Were they towing it away? I mean, what was that like?
Yeah. Before that, they had everybody kind of come back to the ship. And they were doing this processing where they were giving everybody orders. Everybody started getting orders that certain time. And there were some that have been in there a while that I guess got the opportunity or the chance to request somewhere different, So they could kind of put it in, and they were getting, I guess offers here and there. And then there was others that still haven't finished their term. And they were like, hey, you have no choice. We're going to fucking accommodate you into these other ships next to us, which are oilers and ammunition ships alike. Yeah. And they'll kind of you'll continue your path there. So some of the shipmates went into like the Sacramento, the Rainier, and the Camden that was stationed there also in Bremerton. next to the Mount Hood, you know. So the Mount Hood was the Mount Hood was the only AE there, alongside AOEs, you know.
Okay.
So we did the ship was a little larger because they just had a lot more compartment holds for jet fuel.
So did you do ammunition as well on those ships, or were they just strictly oil and fuel?
Yeah, they did ammunition as well. Yeah, they had ammunition and fuel and food and, you know, supplies and foods and things like that, because we had a bunch of cargo. So the good thing about being on one of those kind of ships is that our food was kind of always fresh. We did get some good food in the mess halls, you know, because we carried everything, you know. We even had to transport it to carriers, you know. Carriers were waiting for us to come up with fresh food and fucking, you know, mayo and ammunition, you know what I mean?
What a trip. Yeah. Did you have to mess cook a second time on the next ship or no?
No, I didn't do any mess cranking on the Mount Hood, because I was in weapons division, so they needed everybody as much as they can on weapons department, because of their last deployment, the last run, you know. So they didn't get nobody from us there. My second ship.
So you guys basically unwrapped at least a couple more times in that mini cruise, huh?
Yeah, we did a couple unwraps. We got to do some underway first time welcoming fucking, you know, ceremonies for all the shipmates that are going underway for the first time. Shipmates celebrating their birthday out underway for the first time. You know, we had our little rituals, so we got a little taste of some good old you know, I guess fraternization in a good way.
Well, what was your male to female ratio on the Mount Hood back then? Like 50-50?
No, I think it was probably maybe 15% to 20% were female. It was a little group of females that were there. Yeah, not too many. It was a small little group of females. I remember some girls in deck department were there, and the gunner's mates, we had some females as well. So yeah, there were some females.
Yeah, I was wondering if they gotten any more, because when we were on the ship, I think we had like 56 assigned to the ship.
Oh, okay.
And there was like a few hundred men, something like that. So I think for a lot of women, and I haven't had any on the podcast yet, showing up to the first Mount Hood was probably a little scary, because these were old, hardcore Navy, you know, salty sailors. You know what I mean? It was a change of culture.
Yes.
These are alpha male, hard drinking, woman chasing, manly men. And now you're bringing nice, you know, professional women on board, and everybody had to instantly subscribe to fraternization rules, sexual harassment, and all that other stuff.
Yeah, we had to fucking,
and understand, hey, that's taboo, and
we had to
keep your line straight, you know?
We had to practice female on deck. You know, there's a female on deck, gotta fucking, you know, cover up or fucking, you know, or drop them.
We never had a female on deck in our berthing.
Oh.
Now, I mean, I can tell you before, and I'm not putting anybody down, this is the way the real Navy was. But, you know, the ship, before women came on board, there was all kinds of Playboys and stuff laying around everywhere, cigarettes everywhere. I mean, everywhere, and everybody was smoking, and I can't wait to pull in a port. I mean, it was just like old, like Popeyes, you know what I mean?
A bunch of, exactly. I was gonna say a bunch of fucking Popeyes, just fucking waiting to fucking,
Yeah, like, where's olive oil? And so when we got women on board, we're like, okay, no fraternization, man. Keep it away. At least the signalmen. There's people that got married off my crew that are still happily married today.
Yeah, you know what? That was interesting. There were still little, fucking, I guess I would kind of call it this little, like, high school sweethearts, you know? I'll be like,
right.
I was like, okay, you guys are a couple. It's like high school. That's that couple, you know, that they're together. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a trip. I was married, so I was like, nah, I'm not going to cross that line. You know,
yeah.
I'm not putting anybody's name out there, but I had one that was flirting with me a lot. And I'm like, no, thank you. No, thank you. And
you're like, I'm not going to shit with our work.
That's right. And I had a boss that was like, you should grab that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, nope. Will not do that.
Fucking
Plus,
it.
you're just egging me on. You're being funny.
Yeah.
I ain't getting caught up in nothing.
Exactly.
Right?
Easy. Yeah.
So I didn't really, and it wasn't because I was trying to be mean. I was trying to be professional, man.
Yeah.
I didn't really get to know many of the female shipmates that well on the ship.
Yeah. And
also,
it's
like, I respect their job and all, 100%. They did everything I did.
They also emphasize, when fucking like, respect and you get in trouble, you fucking, you do this, you do that. So the Navy was also like, hey, follow the rules, don't fuck around, don't disrespect, shit like that. So the last thing you want to do is fucking, hey, are you trying to fucking, are you making me feel uncomfortable? Oh, no, I'm not. I'm sorry. It's like, no, never mind.
Yeah, creepers beware, right?
Exactly.
And that's not cool on a ship. That's for sure. I mean, who knows what's going on now with texting and stuff? Yeah. Who knows what's going on with that? You know what I'm saying? You can imagine. Just add that. Don't even read into it. Just imagine that.
Even the government's texting and getting in trouble with that.
Exactly. I mean, we don't need cell phones on the ship, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I spent plenty of time without them, and that was half the beauty. That was the beautiful part to go to sea. Even when I was drinking, I mean, I drank hard for the first 3 years in the Navy, then I quit, man, for like 18 years.
Man.
But I'll tell you, because I got too many captain's masts, so he sent me to CAC.
Wow.
I got rehabilitated, and I became a 4-0 sailor. I became the master at arms. I became petty officer, everything.
Fuck.
It all happened like that.
You know what? I
just had to take the monkey off my back,
I didn't realize the whole fear of captain's mast. One time we were in, I think it was Hawaii. The gunner's mates were out, and I went out with some guys, and I think it was Joshua Stark, man. Cool guy, man. Fucking funny cat, but had us under his wing. And he was like, no, guys, we gotta get back. And he was worried. And, here's 2-3 boot camps trailing behind him, him and 2 other fucking gunner's mates. And we get to the ship late. Fucking Chief Yuri's fucking mad at us, these motherfuckers. Because deck department saw us walk in, other people saw us walk in. So no, you guys gotta fucking get on these guys because they came in late, right? And we're shitting bricks, and while they were shitting bricks, I was like, "What this captain's messed about? What is the heck?" All of a sudden, a gunner comes along and he's like ripping a fucking new hole on these guys, and just luckily we didn't fucking get in trouble, but. We were close, man, because we were late to like fucking quarters. We should have been there, and it's a big thing being late on your post in the military, I think they let us slide because, the gunner's mates had, it's like, no, we need all the fucking gunner's mates. We can't fuck with them right now, Let's not fuck up their morale. Give them some slack.
Yeah. I mean, you guys were working hard enough, so they gave you a little leniency, but it depends. If you're a hard worker, you might get a little leniency, but no, I did plenty of screwed up things. I'll save those for another podcast. This is more about you. So you went to the AOE, which is the oiler, fuel / ammunition, everything in like one ship.
Ammunition,
auxiliary ship.
Auxiliary, oiler, explosives. So it was a supply ship underway. It was the Pachyderm, the USS Camden, the Pachyderm of the Pacific, they called it. So we were like this fucking big old elephant, with a trunk, ready to fucking do unreps, right?
Unrep machine.
Yeah, so
basically
a few people from deck department also, because when you're on the Mount Hood and you were the Mount Hood was already shutting down, and they were accommodating all the sailors. Certain sailors had certain, bonuses, this and that, but there were a lot of the sailors were in the middle of their, I guess, 4-year or their enlistment, in the middle of their enlistment. So they had to do a little bit of, renegotiating to adjust whatever they negotiated for, in their term. So there was some of that going on, but a lot of deck department were like, no, you guys, next story, So a lot of deck went over to, the Camden, that got able to decommission the Mount Hood. some of the guys that were on deck department from the Mount Hood, like Dixon, Hill, Joshua Hill, one of the guys that was that used to hang out with Stratton and some of the guys there. We kind of went over to that ship and we had this little connection still. We're like, oh man, part of my family still came over. So it wasn't too bad, because it was one of those where like you bump into them and be like, hey, oh, yo, we ended up in the same department, the same berthing. So it was kind of cool that we kind of kept a little bit of connection over there,
That's nice, man. That's a nice thing. Usually you just show up the stranger, the new kid in high school.
Yeah.
But it's a whole different kind of high school. It's the Gray Yacht Club, man. You're ready to get on the gray yacht, baby.
Exactly.
So what was the size of the crew on a ship like that? I don't recall my Jane stuff.
It was 500, 600, without the flight crew. We had 2 choppers that came with us, that helped us with the unreps. So they brought their squadron, which was another, 30 or 40 or so. So it was about 600, cranking away.
My little wife was calling me from San Francisco. Don't worry, I'll edit that.
Oh, cool.
He's like, oh, I'm out with my girlfriend. We've had a couple glasses of wine. I go, stay at her house. It's cool. I don't want you getting on the BART this late at night. It's not as safe as it used to be. The Bay Area Rapid Transit, there's been more muggings and creepy people on it lately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's not as sexy as it used to be. Well, you were never here on the BART. See, I had to think twice when I asked you, because you were in Bremerton. Did you stay stationed in Bremerton with the other ship too?
Yeah, the other ship was also in Bremerton. And interesting, because although it carried like ammunition, we never pulled into, with the Camden, we never pulled into Concord and that particular station as we did with Mount Hood.
Okay.
We pulled into Concord.
How long were you in Concord for a full load up for a week or two?
Yeah, we were there for a good month. Sometimes we were there for a few weeks. We would, go into Stockton. People who got Liberty just go into Stockton and, we're there and from there go to Oakland or whatever. But those who didn't know much of the area, we would just fucking stay close by,
Oh my gosh, that's where we're different, man. I was such an adventure kid, man. I'd leave the ship and everyone's like, where are you going, Dempsey? What do we do here? I go, oh, it's my first time here, but I'm about to figure it out. It's Hong Kong. No, let's figure this out.
It's funny because overseas, we were like, let's get out of here, When we're in port, for some reason, because it was like I was still getting adjusted to the whole thing. I was so I got to stay close to the ship. I got to be ready. Fucking, if they can call, if they need us, and this and that. We did some, and I also did some, Googling, I guess, back then. That was a station where the original Mount Hood was at, and one of the older Mount Hoods, there was an accident that happened there, correct?
Yeah, the first Mount Hood that blew up, they found the anchor 25 miles away, man.
Yeah, so I was like, wow.
On the side of a mountain.
And instead of wanting to be away from the explosion, I guess I just wanted to stay close by to it.
Well, it's a trip because Concord was not an easy station. You couldn't just walk off that base. You needed the ship's van.
Oh, you needed that.
Or you needed a car. Remember?
It drove through a scene out of, what's that, Walking Dead? It's just nowhere, just a bunch of posts.
Yeah, that base was really kind of gloomy. I interviewed the guy who was the commander of the Marines that guarded it, and if you walked around there, those guys would jump out. They had shoot to kill orders. You couldn't screw around.
Man,
there was so much high value target there. They didn't want you getting near it, right? Some of the specials and stuff.
Oh yeah, you know what? So, it looked like there was some stuff that was stored there. Some good weapons that are stored there. I think.
Yeah. Things that go boom really big.
Exactly.
But it's like, there was not much to do there. They used to have a little laundry mat out there. The ship's van would take you there. Most of us didn't have a car. We're like, why make payments? I'm going to be gone 8 months, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we pull into port and we wish we had a car. We try to borrow another guy's car. We'd all chip in on another guy's car, you know, whoever got one.
That's the thing. Whoever had a car, it was like, it was a good thing, but a bad thing, because it was like, no, man, if someone knows you have a car and hey, you got duty tomorrow, bro? Lend me your car. I'm going to just do a few errands. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, you fucking got back at 4 a.m, dude. What the fuck? It's like, oh, yeah, I kind of went over to Seattle and, you know, we got back with the barge in the 4 a.m. Sorry. But it's there, bro. It's fucking running, full tank of gas, you know, good to go.
We had this guy on restriction, and he'd get busted for drugs. And we're like, well, he's going to be out of here soon. So he was like on 30 days before they're going to process him out. We're like, we borrow your car up, man. I'll give you $20, man. Give you $20, borrow your car. Well, he couldn't touch it anyways. Okay, we give him $20. Next day, like, hey, how about 15? I think we eventually got down to $5 a day, man. We're like, I have no money. We want something or nothing.
Yeah,
and we're like driving this car.
He was like,
and he had these 2 big bags of laundry. He had these 2 big bags of laundry in the back. And this is a bad Navy Sea story, but I was out with some friends. We were in the marina in San Francisco. We were drinking heavy duty. We had a designated driver. It wasn't me. So I was sitting in the front, but the 2 other guys were so hammered in the back. And I'm not saying your name, buddies, but you guys know who you are. Anyways, there's these 2 big, you know, remember the laundry bags have the nets and all that stuff and all the clothes are in there?
Yeah.
The laundry bags are in the middle of these 2 guys. It's like this big comfort cushion or something. One guy's real sick and he looks at the laundry and he goes, blah, throws up. And the other guy looks at him like, huh? And he starts throwing up, and all of a sudden they're throwing up at each other. It was gross. They were so hammered.
Chain reaction.
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. It was just wild recklessness, man. I mean, San Francisco was probably, I don't know. I probably had more fun there. I don't know what was Bremerton like?
Bremerton, we had to go over to, there was a few bars off of Bremerton, but, we would either go to Silverdale to go kind of, you know, go hang out there. But also the good thing is that certain shipmates will have an apartment or somewhere where they kind of rent, you know? So if one guy had a place to stay, and there was like fucking 10 sailors in that, you know, one night just hanging out, drinking away, waiting for the next day to get back to the ship, you know, for work. But, we would, you know, if we weren't 21, we would just, find somebody who has a place to, you know, hang out.
To do some indoor drinking.
Yeah, exactly. or we would go on base to the, I remember going on base a lot and then, bowling at the little bowling alley there because they had a pool hall and a bowling place there. So everybody would bring in their drinks and it's like, well, we got to drink somewhere else, but, we'll bring them in here. So we'll have our own little R&R, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I used to use the bowling alley when I lived in Europe, man, on the army base. We'd go to the bowling alley, get a case of beer each, and just parlay. That was a great time back then when I was working in the summer as a lifeguard.
It wasn't
my summer hire job.
It wasn't until later I got a connection to somebody who had fake IDs, you know. So that got me going. That got me going into Seattle a few times until I got into a bar that had a very smart bouncer that figured it out. You know, so I had to come back to the ship and say, I lost my ID. Can I have another? What do you mean?
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Where's your ID?
So where did you cruise to on the second ship? Where did you start? Where did you go around the world to? What ports?
Oh, on the Canada, man. We had a blast. We were able to go to Singapore. We went to Australia. We went to Hawaii, of course. We went to Alaska. We're up in India. We're up in
India?
Yeah.
Alaska?
No.
Where else?
Yeah, we went all over the place, man. That's one blessing, I guess. We did some drills up north on the Pacific, right, in Washington. So we went to Anchorage and Valdez, 2 ports there.
How'd you like Alaska?
It was cool. It was actually kind of cool. There was daylight for like 5 days, you know. Every day I was there was daylight. It was one of those. So I never saw dark Alaska. I saw I was able to see some fucking bald eagles in nature, and oh wow, you know, big old mountain glaciers and things like that. So that was pretty cool. The hometown, the little ports were interesting. You go in there, you're off of Liberty, working away. You go have dinner. You go have some drinks for the night. You come back out at 2, 3 in the morning, and it's still bright. You're like, shit.
Wow.
Is it the next day? No, it's still nighttime, but it's just 2 in the morning.
What a trip.
Yeah.
So you were up there, and then you said you went to India too?
Yeah, we went to, we were able to go to India. We had a sandbox port there, went to the Straits. We had to go do some missions through the Straits. So we got pretty close to that little corner pocket with Yemen, the little section up there, when we got to
a little pirate city.
Yeah. Some of the ports were able to. It was kind of cool because a lot of people, that's where everybody bought suits and fucking chains and necklaces and gold and fucking rugs that they would send home. All kinds of clothing, mainly suits. Everybody got a suit, over there. So it was kind of cool. They got 5 suits. Everybody's rocking them out. They're like, oh, I got them for, $200. All, designer suits, so to speak, jackets.
Yeah.
Like
We used to get those in Hong Kong or PI.
Yeah. We went to Hong Kong too. That's right. We went to Hong Kong. So we got some good ports on the Camden, because we were a supply ship. So we had to, I think that's why we had to, stop quite a bit to reload, refuel, and get new food supply to deliver to all the ships that couldn't come into port so easily. All these frigates and all these cruisers that had
depending on your mission, right?
Yeah,
it depend on your mission whether you were carrying. If you had no ammo, you could pull into anywhere.
Oh yeah,
but on the Mount Hood, that's all we had was ammo, so we couldn't pull into anywhere.
Yeah, remember the Mount Hood? Right? We had to go on Liberty on Liberty boats, right? They would fucking pull a barge out, and,
right?
And if you get drunk and fucked up, you better have some good wobbly legs, man, because that thing's gonna be rocking all over the place when you come back from that Liberty boat, all drunk, right?
Well, they took the little ship's boats, or they, like in Hong Kong, we had ferries.
Yeah, the ferries.
So
yeah, those waters were.
Yeah, did you go to Hong Kong on the Mount Hood or no?
Huh? I think I did go to Hong Kong on the Mount Hood. Yeah, the waters were choppy.
Yeah, those those were a trip. I remember getting on the boat. So when we were there, it was still being leased or owned by England at the time. They had the rights to Hong Kong, right? And they later gave it back to China. So they had like a lease agreement or something. So it was pretty much a British government kind of thing.
All right.
And we rolled in there, and there's all these different bars. And the one thing, when you'd be out drinking, you'd have to watch the opposite side of the street. You're always walking into the car that was coming at you, looking the other direction, because
they give you a week.
Your left neck habit looking across the street. You had to look the opposite of what you were used to, so you started tripping when you'd walk across the street there. Because cars were on the other side, right?
Whatever you've been practicing your whole life, just do the opposite now.
Well, back to that story. I go into Hong Kong, and they're like, I see this British bar, and I see pretty women walking in there, and we walk by, and some American guys go, "Hey man, can we get in this club?" Some Southern guy. They're like, "Hey mate, sorry, no Americans in this bar." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, I heard his accent. I can do that accent. So I go to another bar, and I meet this couple that are South Africans, but they have a house in Walnut Creek, which is near Concord. And they go, "Oh yeah, we'll take you to that bar." So I walk in, I'm like, "Hello, nice to meet you." I start speaking like I'm Australian or something.
That was good.
And I get in there. 2 beers, please. Thank you. Great. Yeah. From Manchester. And my accent was probably going in and out of there. And after a while, they didn't give a shit because they'd let me in.
Yeah.
But the way the British guys were is they would not go up and dance with the girls. They'd wait for the girls to talk to them or something.
Interesting.
So I was like, shit. This is my club.
Like, you know what? The favors are just in my hand now.
So I was inebriated. I was getting a lot of attention. probably because I was the only active cat on the prowl. But I think 2 girls caught me making out with each other girls, and I even liked the waitress, and I'm like, yeah, I'll see you after you're done work. And I'm just blitzed. I don't know. I somehow I had 3 girls interested, and I screwed them all up, and I left. And then I went and get on the ferry boat, and I get on the ferry boat, and I have the strictest chief in the world, Chief Hill. Even the civilians that listen to this podcast know who Chief Hill is. I love him anyways, but man, was he strict to me when I was a kid. You know what I mean? You know, if I'm going to try to find him one day and put him on the podcast. I swear to you, I know where he lives. I'm going to get him. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't even get back. Just like, hey, Chief, I only tell you what I got away with, but you caught me for everything else, right? So check this out. I'm on the ferry boat. And it's like, oh, you know, you get that drunk sleepiness and that cold weather, and you could sleep anywhere, man. You could sleep on a straight street. You don't care. Yeah. In the Navy, you could sleep in a broom closet. Yeah. So I'm on this boat and I pass out. I think they're going to wake me up, and I'm just going to walk up the quarterdeck, whatever. And no, I sleepwalk unbeknownst to me. Chief Hill's on watch, and he sees me, and I walk up to the edge of the, you know, where you step over to walk up to the quarterdeck, the ladder that runs down where you get onto the ferry, right? And the guy's trying to like, Dempsey, get over here. Dempsey, get over here. And I start trying to pull him onto the ferry boat.
Feel like I'm sleeping, bro.
I'm all sleepwalking. I'm all sleepwalking. The guy pushes me away. I'm like, I just went and laid down. And my chief is witnessing this, and I just go back and lay back down on the boat, and it takes off again.
Round 2.
So technically I'm UA, right? So he sees me depart in my sleepwalking drunken stupor back to Hong Kong, and back again. I wake up on the second round back. Huh? Damn it, we're not at the ship yet. I finally walk up to the ship, and he's like, no more liberty for you tomorrow. I go, what, Chief? I want to go back to the British bar with all the girls that I had interested that don't want to see me now. And so I just slept in the next day and recovered. But yeah, that was a funny story I thought I'd share with you. You made me think of that.
And you remember they had they had Liberty boats, and sometimes they had like the speed boats that get you there like in fucking minutes. And then, so if you got a Liberty, you got the speedboat, you know, your 20, 30 minute ride to the shore will be, 10 minutes. Or you get the other barge that takes, a little longer, goes slower. So it makes your ride back to the ship or to the pier, a lot longer.
Yeah. It's a trip, man. I mean, you get to go everywhere nice on the second ship. Did you get to go to Australia?
Australia on that ship? Yeah, we stopped at 2 ports in Australia. We stopped at Melbourne and Perth.
Okay.
I remember Melbourne having a bunch of like casinos, type of thing. Perth was actually more Australian, more like, saw a little bit of the country there, It was actually pretty cool. And like you said, you're there. And I don't know what it is. It's the attention, or it's the fact that the sailors are there to party. But everybody seemed to have a welcoming, a good welcoming. like they treated us really well, and everybody even had girlfriends for the week. It's like, what the heck, dude? You fucking have a.
Were the women as friendly as they all said? Was this the place where everybody found instant love because sailors were so exotic to them?
I think this was it. This was a place where some would say, oh, this is because all the Australians treat their girls like crap. And, all of a sudden you get these sailors that are there just to have a good time. And everybody gets girlfriends there. Everybody had girls that would be like, they'll drop them off, they'll show them around town, they'll take them about, they had a little thing. And the good thing is that, like, I guess some of them kept in touch but it became like a genuine, like, oh man, like, everybody else, everywhere else you go, you had a fling, you had this, you had that. It was cool. It was a good drunken night. But for some reason, when you went to Australia, it's like, hey, you fell in love.
Oh no, my former SM2, he and I talked about it, and we would meet a guy. He's like, you don't understand, man. I'm in love, man. You're not romantic. You don't know why. Susie, who I met in the bar 3 days ago, we're going to make the perfect marriage and have a family and grow to be a part of an American culture and grow in society. It is real love, my friend. You're like, buddy, little PW there. Little PW. I'm going to use the nice word. You're a little PW. You know, your bright work's not shining too well. You're not seeing clearly.
A little wrapped around the finger too much.
You're like, we understand it's your first romantic encounter, and to you, it is kryptonite.
Exactly.
Your value system, 6 months out at sea, no girlfriend, the first girl that gives you a kiss on the cheek, that is the most beautiful woman in the world. Her value soars through the sky.
Yeah,
okay. That's what these guys were in. And it's funny. I'd never been to Australia, but I was told that guys would go AWOL there, go UA all the time.
Yeah.
Because they would meet the love of their life, right? Anybody go AWOL?
No, but we will get the whole lovey-dovey thing, people fucking still have letters going out, and it's like, you're still writing to the girl in Australia? We're headed to fucking Japan. Knock it off.
What a trip. Yeah, it's like they're still writing letters. You're getting letters from Australia. You get letters from Japan, a girl in every port.
Yeah.
Did that happen?
And it never lasted, it was just guys who were just, maybe some of it did go longer than usual, but I didn't hear nobody, marrying an Australian chick.
Yeah, you haven't seen a lot of them come over here. In our day, a lot of guys married Filipino women.
Yeah,
and a lot of chiefs are still married to their Filipino girlfriend. I mean, they were married to him, and they're still married to him, which is cool, But yeah, you never really saw any Australian imports.
It's just like Japan. When I went to Japan, and we went to Roppongi's. We were at this Lexington Queens place. It was a nice club, man. We walked in there, and all of a sudden the ratio was like 4 or 5 to 1. And we looked around, and we talked to one of the guys, and he's like, "Oh yeah, there's a lot of models that hang out at this one particular place that, so every now and then we get this group of models that they work there, and so they come out here to hang out." And this place was kind of like in the alleys, kind of like in the middle of nowhere, kind of thing. And these models were being really friendly. So Dempsey, let me tell you, man, here I am, a 5'7" guy from Los Angeles, talking to this, English, model hanging out in Japan, being totally nice with us. And it's like, wow, this is like heaven. So we're there all night hanging out, and everybody's telling each other stories. All right, dude, we're not on the Navy, right? I'm a contractor. Hey, I'm a football player over here hanging out, all right? I'm over here in Special Forces, all right? Just remember, Special Forces, don't fucking give it away. And we're like, we didn't want to tell people we're like Navy because we were afraid that they would be like, "Oh, you guys are sailors? No, get out of here, this and that, right?" But no, eventually, we told a few we're sailors, we're hanging out. We came back night 2, night 3. That was our go-to place, after this gas panics, kind of place. So it was a good spot, and everybody fell in love. But you went back there. Well, you went back to the second night looking for her again? No, she wasn't there, dude. She wasn't there.
You have that one night, that one chance, that big buildup. You're thinking about it all day. You go from East LA to friggin' you're Antonio Banderas in Japan.
Exactly, man.
I'm Latin Elvis, baby. What's up?
Yeah, buddy. That's the
it's funny. It's like I'm in the Navy, but I do a lot of the stunt work in Banderas' movies. Perhaps you've seen them.
Yeah, I don't have my.
But you could have just been. You could have just been you, though. You could have just been you. What you didn't know when you're a young man.
Yeah, we're just.
You think you need to embellish.
We're there, meeting people who are at, different paths in the world and different careers, and we're just a bunch of gunners mates and deck seamen. Like, who are we compared to you guys? And here we thought, because they would tell us, if you go to certain ports, they don't like sailors. They don't like the guys. You guys get in trouble with other guys because you're going to take the girls away. So try not to emphasize that you're there for the Navy. So we thought, okay, fine. We'll keep it low down for tonight. Yet we
I don't know
give it away with all the drunkenness and the tattoos and,
I'm going to tell him myself. I'm in the Navy.
One or two ended up saying, I'm a fucking captain of the ship.
Guys would try to embellish. I never had to really go that far. I was just like, screw it. You know, because when you see we're making a podcast about what we do, how interesting would your career as a model have been, really?
Exactly.
I mean, unless you were just, you know, some sultan's mistress and something else and you saw the world through exotic jets or something. But ultimately, you know, I mean, comparatively, the Navy is a damn adventure. When I came in, it's not just a job, it's an adventure. The ad when you came in, what was the ad again that you told me? The TV ad?
Let the journey begin. Let the journey.
You had let the journey begin, and I had it's not just a job, but it's an adventure.
Yeah, some sort of right. No, you know what's funny? No, too. It was funny because we're hanging out with some people at this hotel, and we're like, yeah, you know, we're officers, right? We're the officers of the fucking ship, right? 10 minutes later, who shows up with their fucking dressed whites? The original officers of the ship. Oh, there goes our story. So we're not that cool. We're the other guys who fucking just...
We're the officers of the petty officers.
So now, we're not deck seamen, right? We're fucking like electronics warfare technicians and fucking information systems technicians. And, you know, we're like making up these other rates that we're trying to strike into, you know?
Well... You were trying to sound relevant because you didn't feel like you had enough or you were broke or you had this reputation.
We were like, yeah, we got to step it up here or something, yeah.
But ultimately, now that I'm older, I realize that if you just would have been you would have done 10 times better, man. It's weird.
You know what's funny? Because when you go any other place and you've been to other places, even when you come back home, you're just you. And it's a ball game and it's, you know, you meet people, you know, you know, even after the Navy, you know, you go to a bar, you're sitting down, just being you bump into somebody or you hear a conversation, you overhear somebody, and there goes the conversation on, you know, Navy, military, seamanship kind of, you know, connection. There's something, and you're just being yourself, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even today, you look at it, you're like, yeah, man. That's nothing to be unproud of. It's something plenty to be proud of.
Plenty. And
have pride in, you know, it's a trip. But you know, I was going to get to the coal story, but I think we need to do another podcast because we're going to do 2 of them.
Cool.
So we'll save that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The coal is deep. The coal's deep, man. The coal's pretty deep.
Yeah. Well, this is a preview for anybody because, you know, Joaquin got to be there when the USS Cole, just right after it got hit, his ship showed up and they had to help out. But we're not going to give that away. We're going to leave you hooked for this podcast and we're not going to end it, but just giving you a little preview there, throwing it out there, you know. People listen to this podcast all over the world, just so you know. Wow. I've got listeners in Norway, in Great Britain, Australia, Ireland, China, Hong Kong, Malaysia. They're everywhere,
wow.
Dude. That's what you didn't even realize. And they just want to hear your story. You know what people like? And I was talking to my former ops boss last night. He's like, you know, people like the truth. And I go, I agree. Because we're tired of seeing staged reality shows. Like, let's make them jealous. They're competing for The Bachelor. She said, you were ugly. Your dress is gross. It's like they'll antagonize people. This is the whole truth, nothing but the raw truth, because we lived a life in the pre-digital era before life was, what is your ranking on StarCraft Commander versus, you know, what did you do today? You know, life was more mysterious back then, man.
Yeah, you know what? And this is also coming from, this is also coming from experiences that we were able to share with fellow shipmates who don't have the liberty or the connection to be here right now. But you speak to them and you've fellowship with them and they were with you. You know, some of these stories that we go and we talk about, you know, someone's going to listen to, you know, that guy also experienced even some other stories, you know, even a more personal approach and to the life on the Mount Hood and after the Mount Hood, you know, because the Mount Hood, even after it got decommissioned, even after they said, okay, no more Mount Hood, you can't go underway. No, like the sailors still live on. You know, we still move on with our memories that we have from this ship that was so great to us in a part of our lives. You know.
Well, you're gonna meet some of us. That's the weird part about this ship. It came and found you.
Man,
it sent me to find you, and my job was communications. Your job was eventually communications too.
Exactly. It came into.
So I'm shining the flashing light with podcasting as a signalman is supposed to do.
Awesome.
But you know, I just looked at this whole thing. We had the ship's reunion, and I said, these people have great stories. I hang out. Before I did this, I used to film a lot of UFC fighters. I had a gym with Chuck Liddell and all kinds of stuff like that back in the day, man.
Ooh.
I was all mixed up in the MMA stuff. And then I get to hang out with some movie people, some rock people, some, pro athletes, and it's all pretty cool. But I really thought that the stories that I really like listening to were sea stories, were people that served. And where were you from? Like, oh, I was from Wisconsin. I just used to fix my dad's tractor, never seen much. Came out here, joined a ship. Met the most beautiful girl of my dreams. Her dad owned a castle. We went over here, and then she left me, and I went into whatever. I became a post office worker. But then I discovered, hey, man, I could be a martial arts instructor. The twists and turns of the story, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got to get some female shipmates on board because, I'm not sexist about it. I'm definitely not sexist about it. I think they need to share their side. I was just in when it was more alpha, and then it became, mixed, but it was still alpha, but with females in the background. I mean, they were enduring some like rah, rah, rah wolves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that kind of toned down to a level tone. What was the female to male ratio on your second ship?
The second ship had a lot more ratio. I think it was maybe like a 30% ratio. There was a lot more, we probably needed some more brains. So there was a lot more females there, but a lot of gunner's mates, boatswain's mates, storekeepers. We had a female captain for a bit who was there to fucking kick ass and take no fucking names, There's no excuses.
Oh, yeah.
Things, like fuck, dude. We had another cool captain on the ship who was one of the coolest ones ever, I think, and got us to go to all these ports that's why when you were like, man, you got to all these ports. Yeah, I think this captain pulled it off. He would even tell us like, oh, I'm trying to get you guys. And this was pre 9/11, pre 9/11, it was a lot more lenient. After 9/11, I mean, there was a time when they said, okay, you guys can't get off the ship anymore. Why? Well, something happened. What do you mean? I left my car parked, on a meter or in a parking spot. Well, don't worry about it. Yeah. We got orders to leave. So for like a few weeks, everybody had dropped everything that, didn't think that they were going to be off the ship. We showed up to work and they said, hey, you're not leaving. We're going out to sea. And after that, it just started getting a little more strict. We didn't stop at certain ports. We had to stay out to sea. It was a lot more high alert, So I think it started diminishing some port visits because of the red flags.
Yeah, it changed the tempo, potential spies or potential terrorism and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, even when we used to go to the Philippines, they would lock down the gate because there was a local kind of like terrorist cell or militia or whatever, the MPA. And they would be out there. There was martial law there, too. You had to be in your hotel room by 8:00 sometimes. Sometimes no, sometimes yes. But, you better not be found walking the streets.
Yeah.
And, they locked down the whole base one night and it was like, well, I guess we can't go on liberty tonight, So, so in that case, there was like 40 girls and 500 guys in the EM club. And they were basically, if they weren't attractive at one point, they became more attractive than they'd ever been because of ratios.
Yeah,
and I'm not putting anybody down because I grew up in that environment as a military brat. I mean, I lived in a high school that was 60% boys, 40% girls, and then like 2,000 Army airborne GIs that were jogging by the school with their abs and muscles going, who's the freshman? Yeah. You're like, oh my God, was it that bad? So join the Navy, seeing that all over again. I go, oh, this is familiar. But, so you did how many years total?
I did 4 years. Yeah, just 4 years.
Okay.
I did a year and a half.
Well, you had a big experience, man.
Yeah.
You had a big experience.
I had some good ports and 2 ships. So, like I said, quite an experience in that short term.
Well, I definitely want you to come back and talk about the coal. And I know other sea stories will come to mind because it always happens to me. I mean, this is like my 7th, 18th or something. Wow. I've only issued like 15 or 16 so far, but I got a few saved up and a couple other gunners mates, and their story is different than your story, and they're different in each other's story.
Yeah.
And one guy from Texas that's going to be coming up, Jay Ortega, and then Mark Hildebrandt, who still lives out here in Santa Cruz. Cool. But how many shipmates are near you right now that you know of that you serve with?
I keep in touch with a few shipmates from the Mount Hood. Joshua Hill, who's a good friend, became a good friend there. He was in deck department. Sean Owen, he's in San Diego. Dixon's I think in Oklahoma, but as far as contact kind of wise, we still, through Facebook, media, this and that. So from the Mount Hood, it's just a small group, handful. We're
going to invite those guys out.
Yeah.
We got to invite those guys out with you and them and some of the other.
Yes. I'm going to give them a heads up about that meetup.
I'll post it on that main page, but wherever they aren't seen or they don't know about it, because it's like there's a little bit of an age difference. I mean, how old are you right now?
I'm 37.
Okay, I'm 49.
Yeah, we're not too bad, man. So we're not too bad. We're not too far apart.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
I don't feel like an old man or anything, but it's just that life.
It's like this, man. It's like when I was in elementary, and I was like, oh, I want to be in high school. Look at all those guys doing everything in high school. That's all. That's all it is. You were just there before me. I was like, man. Sometimes, it's funny. I've been in certain, at work, and they're honoring veterans and shit like that. They want to recognize people. I don't try to, I'm not signing up for shit like that. But when they're like, oh yeah, come on, stand up, buddy. You're a veteran. Come on. All right, I'll stand up. And they'll ask me oh, tell us a little bit something. And, about, and they're expecting me to say this war hero story, sometimes. And all I remind them, and I say, the people before me, the sailors before me, are the ones that kept us going when I was there. The fact that you guys kept the Mount Hood safe and ashore is what kept us hopeful that, hey, you know what, we're gonna fucking be able to survive this thing as long as we kind of keep doing whatever everybody else was kind of doing. Keep an eye on the tradition and the workmanship of the ship. You know what I mean? It's like they're the
tradition get passed down to me,
exactly,
then to you, and then to the crew after me.
You guys put the platform for a lot of us. Even nowadays, the military has changed so much. I'm sure in your eyes that you see,
big time.
What the fuck, But you guys set this fucking, this era, and shipmates before you, where it made us comfortable enough to be like, hey, let's join the Navy, Let's fucking see what's up over here. Yeah.
Oh, I was around it, keep in mind I was a military brat. So I was around the military from age 3 till I get out at age 25. So that's like 22 years.
Wow.
Living on bases, and, I'd play high school football in Naples, Italy, where they had a Navy base, and I'd see sailors and I go, those are different than the Army guys. I'd see Air Force people. I'd see, we'd go play football down in Sigonella, Sicily. And that was another Navy base. And those kids seemed different, but they were cool in different ways. And, we'd play Aviano, which was an Air Force base. And those kids were a little different, But we were all the same. We're all military brats. But the tradition is there. Mm-hmm. And the adventure and the styles and the eras all have different things, but that's the whole beauty of the podcast. Your era matters. you have a very important chapter on this thing, and this is going to be like, History Channel or better, but real stuff. I mean, just think, there were soldiers that served in the Civil War, World War II, Korean War, non-war, but served, and they had an interesting life, whether they were in the middle of a conflict or not. They could have been in the military from 1980 to 85, and there maybe nothing big was popping off where they were at, right?
Yeah.
But, that's the interesting thing, but you still want to hear their story.
Yeah.
My landlord, he was a ranger, and he never went to combat, but he's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
And he was there ready for it. You get to see it. You were there, the post 9/11, the whole military shifted.
Yeah, because when you're in the military, like for example, when we were in, they said, okay, we're going to prepare accordingly to whatever's been going on. So they prep us and they train us to whatever has been fucking going on before us. If a certain event happens, then they adjust and they adjust the training or whatever, and they go accordingly. So that's like we're on the Mount Hood, and it's like, okay, now we're on the last part of the Mount Hood. What are we going to do with her? All of a sudden, this captain's like, hey, I could get, another little small deployment. Even though we put her through a 6-month deployment just a few months ago, I could pull another 3.5-4 month little cruise and have a last good run with her, And I think that's a pretty cool thing about something that gets retired or gets, put aside, because as we get older, we learn that certain things end, right? Certain things give up in time. Our memories will forever go on, and the fact that we have so many shipmates on this one particular ship that is no longer around or just a scrap, whatever, somewhere, like we're keeping it whole, we're keeping it fucking sailing, we're keeping it, going through all these ports again. Going through all these oceans again, that's the beauty of it.
Well, that was the thing too. It's like, you watch A&E story on a specific combat mission. It's a 1-hour thing, right? Mm-hmm. There's no way in hell that you could capture the history of the Mount Hood the way this podcast can be if I get 1,000 people that served on it and have 1,000 stories from one ship. It'd be one of the most, it would rival any interesting story. It may have its slow parts. There may be somebody who's okay, and then the next person's exciting. The next person's kind of weird, but then you go back, you listen to the weird person's story again. You go to all of it, and it paints a huge picture of 1971 to 1999. Yeah,
just like,
and this is
like
the pre-internet life.
Yeah, like all these other podcasts that you had, I took a listen to them, and I started to appreciate a little bit more of the Mount Hood, because I saw that there was a little bit more, or I heard a little bit more involvement and more personal touch and more heart from all these other people you've interviewed. And I'm like, man, like you sort of like put 2 and 2 together, and it grows on you for some reason. It's like, it's weird.
It's funny because like I said, my civilian friend's like, yeah, how about Chief Hill? And he knows about my chief. He brings him up. I'm like, wow. Oh, wait, you're starting to know the people on the ship. And I figure that if somebody becomes an avid listener, they will become, oh yeah, heck yeah. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, I know. Oh yeah. I remember when Joaquin was on there, man. That was crazy. He was talking about Australia and those girls. I remember that. And another shipmate will listen to that and say, dude, when I was in Australia, we're on this kangaroo farm. Bobby had this whiskey. I mean, there's a side of it. I keep it PG-13. I don't try to put anybody on blast. I could. I mean, otherwise, what's the podcast going to sound like? An adult movie, perhaps?
Yeah. The good thing is like, hey, the funny thing is that a lot of the times
you're all married now. You got kids.
It's like, oops. Yeah, honey. That show I was doing. Can you not listen to it until we kind of edit it a little bit for our family? No.
I mean, this isn't not.
But I'm sure. I'm sure. Like for example, like I mean, every spouse with the sailor knows that their sailor or being with a sailor is a little different than being with another guy. You know what I mean?
And for the guys that married female sailors.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, we were all in the same circumstance. It's not like anybody was worse than anybody.
Yeah.
It's that we were all living with the same curiosities, the same circumstance. Hey, I'm single. I'm out at sea. Oh, oops. Why did I get married? Oops. I mean, so many things were happening, and I don't know, but it sounds like, so you get out. Were you a second class when you get out? You were telling me?
I got out as a IT2, second class.
It became IT. Radioman became IT.
Radioman became information systems technician. Ooh.
Is that like a data analyst kind of job, or like communication analyst?
It's like a what do you call it?
I seaman radioman with a computer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because they put us in the middle. They put us in the middle. They said, "Oh, you could fix the computer. You could help our desktop keep running, but you could also keep our communications running with like receivers and transmitters and antennas." So the whole communications tower was actually a cool thing because I got to do some fucking maintenance on the towers with some monkey lines strapped in. So hanging off the mast there, off the fucking, you're looking down below and you're like, shit, I used to fucking, scratch paint and now I'm over here putting grease on these little antennas. Like, what the heck, man?
I know exactly. See, I was going to share that with you too. You remember the yard arms? They'd go out there to have those. Yeah. I'd have to go all the way out to the edge of that, holding that fiberglass railing with a little harness.
With the harness and your 3 feet fucking security slack, right?
I just had a little harness with the hook.
They're like, if you fall, you get an extra 3 feet in this monkey line that can kind of slow your fucking fall. Oh, thanks. That makes me feel better. I'm still gonna fucking hang.
I think you had better equipment.
Oh, really?
I think you had better equipment. I would lightly hold the railing, holding this hook and rope in my hand. I didn't want to attach it to the railing because the railing would have snapped. It was fiberglass. I weighed like 203 pounds. I would have snapped that thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, so I was just balancing myself. I get there and I straddled the yard arm. And I had to change. It was a light. It was an infrared light for transmitting Morse code.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had to go under there and change the light bulb and put, silicone on there. Silicone was our favorite thing for PMS. Silicone.
PMS. Yeah. The lifesaver.
Not too much change on that part. Right. But you weren't in the cell phone Navy, huh? I mean, was there cell phones by the time you get up? Were people getting them smartphones?
Yeah. There was some cell phones going on my second ship. I remember getting a cell phone and calling home. I'll be on watch and doing like a patrol watch when we're on pier, and I'll be calling home with my fucking headset and be like, "Oh, I'm just doing my rounds right now, but we could talk for a little bit,
Well, now when people get smartphones, that just hypnotized them, and that's why we're having these wrecks. And they just need to shut it down. They need to go old school, man. You need to take it in for what it is,
Yeah, man. That's just like it is out here when people are using their phones for shit, I'm sure people are
look at the drivers on the freeway.
Yeah, cause look at, I see people, like, I saw some photos from some people on the Navy. They're taking pictures, like, on watch and fucking, like, on certain parts of the ship where I was like, wait a minute. I remember when I was in fucking, operations, I couldn't fucking take a camera in that fucking space zone. Like, why is somebody carrying a fucking phone where they could get easily distracted and take photos? Like, that shouldn't be allowed.
Oh, the guy that got busted on the submarine taking pictures of the nuclear power plant or whatever.
And that's just getting caught.
That guy got busted. I'm like, what are you doing? Hey, honey, look at this. And like, your girlfriend doesn't care. She doesn't know what that thing is.
Imagine the people that haven't been caught. Yeah, fuck, dude.
And you get busted and, it's for your girlfriend. Maybe you are getting paid to spy. Maybe your girlfriend's a secret agent. Who knows?
Yeah, they want to post how cool their fucking job is. It's like, nah, it's not about that, dude. It's about keeping your fucking eye on the watch, keeping your eyes on the fucking, on the horizon, keeping your fucking ears open. For that 1 hour, you gotta fucking put in your fucking 100%,
I noticed too, you were friends with the guy that owns Salty Dogs.
Oh yeah,
the Salty Dogs group.
Yeah. I got on that group. I still haven't got on my hat though. I'm waiting for my hat.
You know what? No, I asked him if he wants to start a podcast. He said he's down. So,
oh man,
maybe we'll have to help him out. You know what I mean? We'll have to help him get that going. Maybe you can help me out.
He helps a lot of guys. He helps a lot of military people, a lot of veterans. One thing I like about him is that he brings the old school, and he carries that along, the old tradition. So everybody who's been in the military, who keeps their life going, whenever there's an issue, that guy jumps on it. He's asking for cooperation. Not as many people cooperate as he wish he would, but he has that group to sort of like support. I don't know. It's a good support group, you know?
Well, they're helping the podcast too. I mean, getting this thing seen in front of those 45,000 people, that's great. And I want to help him start his own podcast.
Oh,
you know,
he's fun, man. He's a writer,
and to be co-podcasts.
Yeah, he's a writer, so I'm sure he has an interesting mind, man. He's got some stuff in his mind that he would like to share, I'm sure.
I'll get him on this podcast, but I want to help him start, even if it's us running it Mount Hood people, because he may be too busy. And, I'll volunteer a couple of the guys that I'll work with and I'll coach, and we'll have the Salty Dogs podcast, which would be a success overnight.
Yeah, he's got a big
it's already
group
got 45,000 members,
and, and it's different ships, which is actually kind of cool. A lot of different ships. So it'd be a nice connection, I think. Yeah.
I have another name for a podcast I thought of, but I got to still think if I'm going to roll it out. I'm not going to throw it out there yet, but I think Salty Dogs, I think those groups should have podcasts named after them. Anything that's significant, 45 to 50,000 members, should have a podcast. And I want to help the Navy because we got great stories, man. Why are we admiring people that are imitating people that have real lives? Why don't we admire the people that actually have a real life, that did real stuff, that have a real story, that are actually interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, we're living in a change of society. I'm not, condemning this new generation. I know that when I was younger, the older people those kids, they're all crazy. They have long hair and tight jeans. Now it's like they all have beards. Oh my gosh, they drink a lot of coffee.
No, but
whatever.
You know what's interesting, Dan? We have a lot, like Hollywood has a lot of movies, has a lot of army movies, marine movies.
Right.
When they
They're
have
imitating us.
When they have any sailor movies like, Pearl Harbor, they don't really depict a sailor life. You know what I mean? They throw in a little officer life living there, but when you get down to like the deck apes, the fucking HTs, the boiler technicians, the fucking firemen,
snipes.
The snipes, like everybody who's fucking cranking away to get that ship going. It's a whole different world. It's a whole different world, man. Like, it's not about just like shooting people and, hitting a hut. It's a different life that is not really out there, that doesn't really get portrayed or even credit, like being on deployment, living in Iraq, being in a compartment space, fucking drills, all these little masks and shit we gotta practice. Like, there's so much going on that nobody knows about. You know what I mean?
They don't. You depict that so well. I totally agree with you, and that's part of why I made this, because we're not just average guys and average gals that were in the Navy. We all did some serious shit. We were cross-trained in firefighting, nuclear, biological, chemical warfare, / fucking helo ops / unrep / communications / security, you name it. We were so cross-trained. We were specialized in our own right.
Yeah, we're not just there with a gun. We're guys fucking keeping watch, being on standby, fucking being on ready patrol. We got firemen. We got, communications specialists. We got fucking a ship running. We got a whole force fucking coming at, doing circles. A whole force running on standby and ready to fucking say, hey, if you give us the green light, we're gonna fucking just give the announcement, and fucking 500 sailors are gonna fucking jump on a command, and things are gonna happen. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's crazy.
As long as we're able to pass, you see, there's so many articles now. I bitched all over these different places. I said, have the Secretary of the Navy call me. Because I knew what the problem was. They've already figured it out now. He doesn't need to call me now. But if you want somebody to retrain signalmen, I would be glad to put them in touch with some great people that can, because I believe signalmen would be something that's still going to be of value that people might not see it the way I see it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it might look like an old antiquated thing, but if you go DIW in the water, what comms are you going to use if everything shuts down?
Yeah.
You know, backup generators? No such thing when everything goes down, my friend.
You're going to fucking get your phone and fucking flash your light on your cell phone and shit? No, come on.
Exactly. No, there's different things. And, you know, working in battle situations, directional flash and light is silent, retrievable. There's all kinds of things. But aside from that, I just want any new Navy people listening to this. You were newer than me, but still it's gone on another decade or plus since you get out, right?
Yeah.
So, but you're fresher from it. You were there at the edge of technology, the change. And that's the interesting part about the Mount Hood. It's not like the new Zumwalt or whatever it is, the badass new high-tech destroyer that just came out.
Shit, dude.
Yeah. It's with rail guns and shit. It's not that, right? But I don't know, man. I just want more people to tune in, share this podcast, share it with your friends on Facebook. We're going to do a reunion in Southern California. I'm actually going to get to meet Joaquin and some of his friends, and he's going to get to meet the old sailors, and the family will keep growing. And that's one of the powerful things about this podcast. It's not just that we're telling you our stories. We're actually hanging out together like I did today with 6 other shipmates.
Yeah.
And I want to turn that into the whole Mount Hood is just like, we hang out once a month, man. It's no joke.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah. You know, I have 2 shipmates that have been friends for the last 30 years. Me and my other Navy friends just barely connected over the last 7-8 years, you know?
Wow.
And I'm like, it would have been better if we had each other's back those last 30 years, you know?
Yeah, you know what? And people have gone out of the service, like you said. They've ended up somewhere else. They've become different people in society. But
right.
But they're portraying this person in society. But there's this part of them that it's like, deep inside of them, I feel like their core is their sailor, you know? A core is a sailor, and they're just adjusting to civilian life and going through life and trying to get through where I think, even though they spend a short time or even more years in the Navy, that impact does a long sort of effect, you know? Where you can't let go, you can't forget, you can't just...
It's your tribe. It becomes your tribe. It's you and them against the world.
Exactly. So when people listen, you know, I want them to be encouraged and be proud of what they did, you know, and relive and rekindle their friendships, because it's the connection and the family that keeps us going forward. You know, nobody's going to understand us like us, you know?
No.
Nope.
Yeah, but it's funny how I'm 12 years older than you, and you understand me and I understand you because we understand the same journey, even though it happened at different periods in time. We were in the same time machine. Exactly. Isn't that interesting?
Exactly, man. way to put it, man. Exactly. We're on the same
what a crazy thing.
Same fucking railroad. We're just a different time on that train, you know?
Yeah. And here we are, but we're going to build it. But just think about this. I have a crazy thought, and I'm going to wrap it up here in a second. But I have a crazy thought. What if all the Mount Hood had got together and started their own version of Google? How badass would that company be? If everybody understood they were capable of more, because the way they could already work together, they decided to start a high-tech company.
You know what?
Just imagine that.
Yeah,
it's just a crazy thought. You know what I mean? The teamwork.
We'd be the
ship.
Yeah. We'd be a little bit more uncivil than Google and Facebook, huh? But we'd be kicking ass, you know? Because everybody dedicates, everybody fucking puts 100% and still knows how to fucking party like a pirate, right?
Yeah, but if it translates, man, it translates. There's a lot of shipmates that have done great things, and a lot of shipmates that are just good, solid people and good fathers, mothers, you know, and role models for people. There's people that have had it hard and went down the dark side, but for the most part, I think most people did pretty good. And, you know, you're selling real estate down there in what area?
In Los Angeles, Downey, California. I got out, did some technical work out of the well, I was a radio man, so I decided to kind of pursue my career in technology. But as I was going to school, I got in contact with the realtor. There's a lot of sales and real estate going on in Los Angeles, so I got hooked and fucking, you know, just cranking away here, I guess.
So you're able to help out veterans and stuff, huh? If they need to get a house down in your area.
Yeah, I just got a buddy of mine who fucking had his VA loan. He was able to buy a property, and you know, he was like, "Oh, what kind of house you want to get?" and this and that. He's looking at 3-bedroom houses and 2 bedrooms. I was like, "Do you have a family?" He's like, "No, but I have a fucking loan that I need to get rid of." This and that. And it's like, all right, well, you know, he's got his disability coming in, and he qualified. And we got him a house, so that was kind of cool. And it was nice hearing from somebody off a different ship. He's off the USS the Vinny.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, a cruiser or frigate out there. And he's all stationed in, he's out here now in California. But it was nice to see his perspective during the time that he was stationed in the Navy and his experience. But it's funny.
Well, maybe we should get him on the podcast or something one day.
We should definitely get him in because he's got some stories too. You know, he's had some buddies who served some time and you know, unfortunately are not with us anymore. But that's the interesting thing. Like, nobody thinks sailors pass away on duty. You know, shipmates are at risk. You know, we are all at risk.
Yeah, we definitely. There's a lot of stuff to that, and we'll definitely cover that sometime. Yeah. I think that how can people find you if they need to get some real estate in the LA area, Joaquin?
If you want to check it out, hit me up on Facebook, Joaquin Torres, and our profile is there. If you're in the LA area, I'll definitely help you out, guide you to get your house, get you a good loan. And we're in Downey, so it's a little central location considering, you know, Anaheim, so to speak. But other than that, you know, if you're out there, shipmate, you know, let's hook up, let's hang out.
Yeah, I totally endorse that. So yeah, guys, if you need anything like real estate, look up Joaquin Torres and tell him I was on the Mount Hood, and it'll get you a huge discount. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. It'll get you 24/7 assistance.
You'll get the Mount Hood discount, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the Mount Hood discount.
I think your broker's like, what was it? What's the Mount Hood discount? Don't worry about it.
Like,
just give him a bunch of extra.
It's going to change with every different buyer is going to change.
What is the USS Kiska discount? I don't even know what that one is. What are we supposed to give them? I think we're supposed to give them some free lawn chairs, boss. I don't know. It's supposed to be part of the deal. It's the USS whatever. Oh, shoot. We different deals, different ships. I got to look up the book.
Yeah, it's right? A welcoming flag, a welcoming mat, you know, some fucking a bottle, a barrel, or some fucking liquor, and we're good.
Well, you've been the most candid guy, and I enjoy that, my friend. But thank you so much for a great podcast.
I appreciate it.
Let your friends know. I'll be releasing this in probably a week or two because I have other ones I release them at different times, but this is going to be a great one, man.
Cool.
I'm excited to let this one out.
I'll let you know, and I got a few guys that I'll shoot over your way, and from the last era, and they're
for sure.
They're interesting characters.